Hi, and thanks for watching this message video. Don't forget to go through the life lesson that goes with it. And don't forget that there's a podcast of the sermon on Sunday, if you can't make that goes along with this message video and life lesson. Today, we're continuing on in our series called Do You Know God, where we're looking at all the different names that have been used for God throughout the Bible and then connecting them to Jesus. Today, we're talking about the name Jehovah-Nissi, which is the name that Moses used for God after the Israelite armies defeated the Amalekite armies. And this was shortly after Mount Sinai, and the Lord was leading them into the wilderness, so not long after they had left Egypt. Now, the name Jehovah-Nissi means Yahweh is my banner, which is a reference to the banners that armies would use to kind of identify themselves as they were marching out into war. For instance, maybe some of you are familiar with Constantine, the Roman emperor. In 312 AD, when he converted to Christianity, the vexillum, which is the standards that hold the banners, he had those modified, those banners, to reflect the first two letters of Christ's name, CH, which is like a P and an X, hero, on those banners to denote that Christ was the true leader of all of Rome's armies. So in a roundabout way, what Moses was saying over 1,000 years earlier was that the Lord, Yahweh, was his leader, that the Lord, Jehovah-Nissi, was the one who was the true leader of Israel's armies. Now, the reason why Moses was saying this at this point in time is because the truth is all of Israel's armies really didn't trust God. They didn't have a great relationship with him. They didn't know him. So they were constantly questioning not only God's leadership in their life, but they were also questioning Moses' leadership in their life. For instance, look at what it is that Moses said was going on, again, right after the fiasco at Mount Sinai, as the Lord was leading all of the Israelites into the wilderness. Exodus 16, 1 through 3. Then the whole community of Israel set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Mount Sinai. They arrived there on the 15th day of the second month, 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. There, too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron.
"If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt,"
they moaned.
"There we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. But now you have brought us into this wilderness to starve us all to death."
In spite of all of the plagues that the Israelites saw in Egypt, that didn't hit them, but hit the Egyptians, and in spite of the fact that they saw God supernaturally save them from the Egyptian armies at the Red Sea, these people still could not equate that God was for them, that he was going to protect them, that he was going to take care of them, and that he was ultimately leading them to this promise of a land that was better for them. They couldn't trust that. And so many of them had forgotten about how when they were in Egypt, it was their cries for help that caused the Lord to come and rescue them in the first place. So these are some really confused people. Now, what happened next has become legendary, and that this is when the Lord started to provide manna every morning and quail every night to feed the people of Israel, and he continued to provide manna for the next 40 years. However, it still didn't work to get them to trust in the Lord. For instance, look at what Moses said happened with the Israelites shortly after God started to provide them food every day. Exodus 17, 1 through 7. At the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of Sin and moved from place to place. Eventually, they camped at Rephidim. But there was no water there for the people to drink. So once more, the people complained against Moses. "Give us water to drink," they demanded. "Quiet," Moses replied. "Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord?" But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children and our livestock with thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Walk out in front of the people. Take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and call some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink." So Moses struck the rock as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked on. Moses named the place Massah, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord here with us or not?" Complaining about God, or complaining to God about the things that he's doing in our lives or allowing in our lives, is a pretty common thing for a lot of us the moment that something is not going the way that we wanted, which makes us really no different than any of those Israelites. Which means complaining to God or about God is a sign that a person still doesn't trust in God's plan for them or his leadership. So what did the Lord do with a group of people who didn't trust him or have confidence in his leadership? He continued to provide for their needs, even though that they couldn't, and he did so in supernatural ways to demonstrate for them that he was for them. But in spite of all of this, it still didn't continue to work. And so notice what God did in order to set them up. He told Moses, grab that staff. The staff of God is what it had become known for, and that the people of Israel had seen him use this in multiple ways. For instance, as was stated in that passage in Exodus, God said, grab the staff that you used when you struck the Nile. If you remember, Pharaoh was being shown by Moses through this staff the power of God. The Nile turned to blood. A lot of other things happened because of the staff. When he held it out over the Red Sea, it separated. And so now God once again has Moses use this staff in front of everybody, especially the elders, to strike a rock that now brings out water that's going to save the lives of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, not to mention their animals. So once again, he has provided for them, but he's used the staff as a means with which to show that his power can provide for them. And notice that right at the moment when everybody is splashing around in the water, having a great time, thinking everything is hunky-dory, that God does this. Exodus 17, 8 through 15. While the people of Israel were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill holding the staff of God in my hand. So Joshua did what Moses had commanded and fought the army of Amalek. Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and Hur climbed to the top of the nearby hill. As long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained the advantage. Moses' arms soon became so tired he could no longer hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. Then they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So his hands held steady until sunset. As a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. After the victory, the Lord instructed Moses, write this down on a scroll as a permanent reminder and read it aloud to Joshua. I will erase the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar there and named it Jehovah-Nissi, which means the Lord is my banner. Throughout history, there have been a lot of books or maybe even articles written on conflict or war and the particular tactics or strategies that could be implemented in any type of a battle. But I promise you, you're never going to find any place where somebody is going to recommend the tactics that were used by Moses and Aaron and Hur on that day. But I'll tell you what the people of Israel learned. They learned that when God was lifted high, or when the symbol of his power was lifted high for all to see, they achieved victory. So, in other words, what they learned is that the Israelites did not achieve that victory under their own power or under their own strength. No. The Israelites beat the Amalekites because Moses honored God and then openly declared that the Lord was his banner, or that Yahweh was his leader and Lord. Which brings us to Jesus, the Messiah, who has clearly been established by God as the name above all names and the leader of everything because he has authority over everything. And so in a modern day sense, how are you and I, like a Moses, supposed to openly declare that the Lord, Yahweh, is our leader, or that when it comes to facing any kind of a battle or any kind of a war, we do so under God's direction, under God's authority? How are we supposed to do that in a modern day sense, openly declare that Jesus is our leader and Lord? Well, one of the most obvious ways that we are supposed to do that is with our words. For instance, look at what it is that the Apostle Paul wrote to, of all places, the churches in Rome. Romans 10, 9 through 10. If you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and it is by openly declaring your faith that you are saved. When we engage, when we speak, when we are in any way around others, and we are sharing with them what it's like for us to go through our battles, whether that's at school or at work, or whether it's something personal, or whether it's something that we're all facing together as a country, politically, whatever, do they see from you and I, as followers of Jesus, Jehovah-Nissi, that we really do look to him for guidance, that we really do look to him for strategy, that we really do look to him for leadership, that we really do look to him for safety, that we really do look to him for protection, that we do look to him to fulfill all the promises that we know that he's made to us? Or do they see that we are doubting him, or maybe even worse, placing our hope and our faith and our trust in something else, in someone else, maybe even a leader that's of a political sense? We're at a time right now where a lot of people are flying flags, you might say, under a political party or under some other idea. And the whole idea of this whole message is to help everybody who is a follower of Jesus Christ to realize the one thing that we should be making known to everybody is that we have one flag. And on that flag, whether it was like Moses or whether it was like Constantine, that we make it known that Jesus is our leader. He is our Lord. He is the one who calls the shots. He is the one that gives us safety and protection and guidance, and he is the one who delivers on promises that we can cling to. And so we hope for the things that God has provided. So if you are a follower of Jehovah-Nissi, of Jesus, then my prayer is that you will do the best, like I'm trying to do my best, at a period of time right now where every battle or every war that I am going into, I want everybody to know in whom I trust, and it is Jesus.